after 60, keeping him happy is easy if you're not selfish. Isn't it crazy that so many married men absolutely hate their lives, even after 60? You know, after 60, a strange truth begins to reveal itself. Keeping a man happy is one of the simplest things in the world, yet somehow, it becomes the thing most wives stop trying to do. Many men my age spend their later years feeling drained, dismissed, or quietly punished for needs that were never complicated in the first place. Not because their wives are bad people, but because somewhere along the years, the small acts of peace and kindness turned into tools of control, silence, or resentment. And the saddest part is this: most men don't argue, they simply shrink. Welcome back to my channel. It's Vernon again. In this video, I'm going to share 3 simple truths. Many wives after 60 overlook the 3 ways they quietly turn something as simple as keeping a man happy into something almost impossible. If these reflections speak to something in your own story, consider subscribing to my channel and turning on notifications so you won't miss the conversations we have here. Let's take a gentle step into these 3 truths and see what really keeps a man's heart steady after 60. Number 1. Breaking his peace until he gives in. There is a kind of exhaustion an older man carries quietly, one that does not come from work or age or the slow weakening of the body, but from something far more subtle, the steady wearing down of his peace. It builds slowly, almost invisibly, through the sharp tone of a comment, the repetition of a complaint, or the constant hum of dissatisfaction that follows him through the rooms of his own home. Over time, these small moments gather into something heavier than most people realize, and a man finds himself dreading the very place that was meant to be his refuge. This is why the behavior many men describe, the relentless nagging, the refusal to let a disagreement rest, the insistence on pushing until he gives in, becomes one of the most common forms of emotional manipulation used by what people call selfish wives. She may not see herself as cruel. In fact, she may believe she is simply expressing herself. But expression turns into erosion when the goal stops being understanding and becomes victory. What hurts the most is not the request itself, but the repeated breaking of a man's quiet until he feels he has no choice but to surrender. Most men will never say this out loud, but they know the moment when conversation turns into a battlefield. It can happen in the kitchen while he rinses a cup, or at the edge of the bed as he takes off his shoes. She raises a question, he offers an answer, and instead of hearing him, she circles back, again and again, until the words lose meaning, and he whispers the same phrase so many men use when they feel cornered. Nothing. I'm fine. That sentence rarely means he is fine. It usually means he is defeated. It means the peace he wanted was not worth the next argument he was about to face. A man does not crumble dramatically. He does not shout or slam doors. He folds inward. He becomes quiet in a way that feels safe to him, even when it builds a wall no one can see. He chooses silence over confrontation, even if that silence costs him his joy. And the painful truth is that many wives, lost in the urgency of their own emotions, do not recognize the moment when their words change from communication to pressure. They do not see that their insistence on being right is quietly pushing the man they love further into himself. And when this happens too many times, a man stops trying to explain himself at all. He simply accepts that harmony will only return when he yields. I have lived long enough to understand that nagging is not about solving a problem. It is about asserting control. And tragically, the more she pushes, the more disconnected he becomes, leaving both partners feeling unloved in a marriage that continues out of habit rather than affection. The way forward is not complicated. It simply requires a shift in tone and intention. Instead of pushing until he breaks, try speaking in a way that invites him in, rather than drives him away. Replace repetition with calm clarity, and replace pressure with patience. When peace becomes something you protect together, surrender is no longer part of the conversation, connection is. And as heavy as this truth may be, it is only one piece of the larger pattern that slowly unravels a marriage from within. So let us move gently toward the next lesson and see what it reveals. Number 2. Withholding intimacy to force compliance. After 60, a man does not chase passion the way he once did, but he still longs for closeness, softness, and the quiet reassurance that he is wanted. When that tenderness is withheld, not out of fatigue or illness, but as a way to punish him or bend his will, something inside him begins to wither. Most men won't say it openly, but they recognize the shift instantly. A simple disagreement turns into emotional distance. A difference in opinion becomes a cold shoulder in bed. Affection is offered like a reward when he behaves the right way, and taken away when he stands his ground. It is not the lack of intimacy that hurts him most. It is the message behind it. I will only love you on my terms. There is a quiet humiliation in lying next to someone who once reached for you without hesitation, only to feel her body stiffen or subtly shift away because you didn't give her what she wanted earlier that day. It is a rejection that does not come with shouting or accusations, but with the cold absence of what used to be shared so freely. A man may keep his face calm and his breathing steady, but inside, something tightens. He starts to wonder when affection became conditional, when touch turned into a scoreboard, and when the bed, once a place of comfort, became a reminder of everything he is failing to be. And though he won't say a word, the message lands with painful clarity. He learns to tread carefully, to avoid disagreements, to soften his truth, just to avoid the chill he knows will greet him later. Little by little, he begins to associate intimacy not with connection or closeness, but with tension, pressure, and the fear of being denied. In that shift, desire no longer feels like an expression of love, it feels like a risk. Over time, this emotional bargaining reshapes the marriage entirely. He stops expressing his needs. He avoids conflict at all costs. He learns to give in quickly, not because he agrees, but because losing intimacy feels like losing the last thread of closeness he has left. And slowly, painfully, the relationship becomes a negotiation instead of a partnership. The way forward is gentler than people think. Intimacy should never be a tool of power. It should be a bridge. Instead of withholding affection to win an argument, pause long enough to understand each other without turning love into currency. Speak honestly, soften where you can, and let closeness be an expression of connection, not compliance. When love becomes safe again, neither partner has to lose themselves to be held. Has intimacy ever felt like pressure instead of closeness? Share your experience in the comments, because these conversations matter more than most people realize. And from here, the path naturally leads us to another truth, one that reveals a deeper pattern hiding beneath the surface of many long-term marriages. Number 3. She stops giving love and starts keeping score. An older man can sense it long before he can explain it. The shift from warmth to calculation, from affection to evaluation. After 60, he is no longer looking for grand gestures or sweeping romance. He simply wants to feel that his presence still matters. But when a wife begins to measure everything what she gives, what she gets, what he failed to do, and what she has done more of, the relationship slowly loses its softness. A man can feel the difference instantly. The smile that once appeared naturally now comes with a reminder. The small acts of care she used to give freely are replaced with comments like, "Do you know how much I've done?" or "You never appreciate anything." Love becomes a ledger, and every interaction feels like an entry. Even when he tries to show affection, she collects the moment as proof to use later, rather than receiving it with grace. And this is where the deepest wound forms. When love becomes conditional, when affection is earned, praise is rationed, and appreciation is traded like currency, a man no longer feels loved for who he is. He feels tolerated for what he provides. Every mistake becomes a record, every disagreement becomes a tally, every effort becomes a test he can't quite pass. Men at this stage of life do not crave perfection. They crave peace, connection, and the comfort of being accepted even when they fall short. But in a marriage where keeping score replaces tenderness, he begins to tighten inside. He starts revisiting old memories, searching for moments where love felt lighter, where mistakes didn't become ammunition, where forgiveness was offered instead of stored. And in that search, he realizes something quietly devastating. He no longer feels emotionally safe. A man who does not feel safe can't open up. He can't be playful. He can't be vulnerable. He can't offer the very connection she claims to be missing. This is the hidden tragedy of scorekeeping. It destroys intimacy by making love feel risky. And when love feels risky, silence becomes his shelter. So, why these behaviors exist? These behaviors don't appear out of nowhere. They grow. They harden. They settle into a person over many years. After 60, when you've lived long enough to see patterns repeat themselves, you start to understand why some wives fall into these habits without even noticing the damage they're causing. For some, it begins with plain selfishness, the quiet belief that their needs sit at the center of the universe. A man can feel this kind of energy immediately. Every conversation circles back to her. Every request becomes urgent if it benefits her. And every disappointment becomes a crisis only she can claim. There's a specific ache in realizing that the person you share a life with rarely pauses long enough to ask, "How are you doing today?" It's the kind of ache that settles in the chest and stays there. For others, the root lies in an underdeveloped way of seeing the world, a way of thinking where they cast themselves as the main character, and everyone else becomes background. A man can sense this in the moments when his feelings are dismissed, his efforts go unnoticed, and his boundaries are treated like inconveniences. The saddest part is that this mindset doesn't come from malice. It comes from emotional immaturity. A wife, stuck in this frame, truly believes her experience is the only lens that matters. And the man beside her slowly learns that no matter how gentle he is, his inner world will always be overshadowed. And then there's the zero-sum thinking, the belief that love, attention, and emotional energy are limited resources, so she must claim as much as she can. This creates a silent tug-of-war inside the marriage. If he asks for space, she feels abandoned. If he takes time for himself, she feels robbed. If he shows affection elsewhere, even toward family or friends, she reads it as betrayal. A man's happiness is not built on grand gestures or perfect harmony, but on the simplest things: peace that isn't broken, respect that isn't rationed, love that isn't measured or withheld. And as we've walked through these truths together, you may have recognized pieces of your own life in them. The quiet exhaustion of always surrendering, the sting of intimacy used as leverage, the slow fading of warmth when love turns into keeping score. But here's the gentlest truth of all: none of this means a marriage is beyond repair after 60. Most of these wounds were not born from cruelty, but from habits left unexamined. And when a man finally speaks, even if it's through a video like this, he isn't asking to win. He's asking to be seen, to be heard, to be treated with the same tenderness he's always hoped to give. If anything today has touched a familiar corner of your heart, know that you're not walking this road alone. Thousands of men your age carry the same quiet stories, the same hopes, the same longing for a softer kind of love in the years that remain. And maybe the lesson is this: a man doesn't need much to stay happy. but he needs it given freely, not demanded back. I'd be grateful if you'd support my channel. You can like the video, share it with someone who might need these words, and subscribe so you won't miss the reflections we explore here. And if you'd like to stay close to every new story, feel free to turn on notifications. It helps this little community of ours continue to grow in honesty and understanding. I'm Vernon. Thanks for watching my video till now, and see you next time.